The Galactic Council had never seen anything like it. Hundreds of ships from countless worlds floated outside the grand chamber, each one shining with colors, lights, and strange designs. They were massive, complex, and powerful. Some were sharp and deadly like claws. Others glowed like living stars. Every ambassador inside the chamber whispered among themselves, admiring the strength of their fleets. But none of them could prepare for what was coming next. Through the giant viewing window, a small human warship appeared. It was simple. Its hull was smooth, painted in muted gray. Its engines gave a steady, quiet hum rather than the thunderous roar that galactic ships usually made. There were no flashy weapons sticking out, no visible shields that glimmered like energy fields. It looked ordinary, almost fragile. The room fell silent. Even the Grand Speaker, the tallest and most feared of all the council, froze. The humans had been a minor species in galactic history, often dismissed as weak and unimportant. And yet here they were, arriving alone in the heart of the galaxy, unannounced, unafraid. "Is that a human ship?" one ambassador whispered nervously. Their voice trembled. "It can't be." The Grand Speaker's many eyes narrowed. 6 glowing orbs scanned the tiny vessel. "Humans," it said slowly, the sound echoing in the vast chamber. "You dare bring this toy into our council?" Inside the human ship, Commander Alara stood at the control panel. Her uniform was simple and her hair tied back neatly. She was young, younger than most commanders the council had ever met, but her eyes held something the galaxy had never seen before: calm determination. She didn't look at the giant ships outside. She didn't flinch. She only focused on her crew. Her team of humans moved with quiet efficiency. Each hand, each command seemed to fit perfectly with the next. There were no arguments, no fear. Just trust. They were ready. They knew the council would underestimate them. They knew that this small plain ship would be laughed at, and that was fine. Humans had survived countless impossible odds with less. The humans drifted closer to the council's space station. The ambassadors began to murmur louder. "They are too small. They are defenseless. Why are they here?" Alara's voice came over the intercom, calm but firm. "We are here to represent humanity. We do not come to fight, but we will defend ourselves, and we hope you will listen carefully." A wave of laughter went through the council. "Defend yourselves?" One alien shouted, its voice deep and vibrating. "Do you realize you are surrounded by fleets thousands of times stronger than your ship?" "You are asking for your destruction, human." Alara said nothing. She didn't need to. Her ship moved slightly, just a subtle shift in position, and yet the motion seemed confident. The council watched as the small human warship glided forward steadily, not retreating, not panicking. It was as if the ship itself knew it belonged there. Inside the council chamber, an ambassador stood. His skin was a shimmering blue, his tentacles waving nervously. "This is absurd." "They are too small. They cannot." Before he could finish, the human ship's lights changed. A soft, steady glow surrounded the hull. It wasn't loud or aggressive. It wasn't meant to scare, but the room felt it. The light seemed to pulse, alive, moving with a rhythm the council could not understand. Another whisper ran through the crowd. "What is that?" Commander Alara turned slightly to look at her crew. "Remember," she said quietly, almost to herself, "we are small, but we are humans. And humans do not back down. Not ever." The crew nodded. They felt it too. The weight of history, the judgment of countless alien species, and the hope of their home planet. Earth had sent them here alone against what should have been impossible odds. And yet in this moment the human ship didn't seem small at all. It seemed fearless. Back in the council, the Grand Speaker leaned forward, its glowing eyes fixed on the tiny ship. "This is unacceptable," it said. "We do not allow species like this in the inner chamber. Send them away." Ilara's hand rested on the console. She didn't shout, she didn't threaten. She only pressed a button, activating a minor but precise maneuver. The ship tilted just a little, and a subtle shield shimmered around it. Not flashy, not massive, but perfectly synchronized with the crew. The room went silent again. Every ambassador stared. No one had ever seen anything like it. And in that silence, Commander Alara smiled faintly. The Council had assumed humans were weak. They had assumed this small ship was harmless. They had no idea what was coming because humans always had a way of surprising the galaxy. The Galactic Council had never faced a species like humans before. The room was still buzzing with whispers and stunned gasps. No one knew what to make of the small, plain human warship. Its arrival had shattered every expectation the Council held about humanity. And now the aliens demanded answers. "State your purpose, human," boomed the Grand Speaker. Its voice shook the chamber like a low thunder. 6 glowing eyes locked onto the human ship, scanning for hidden weapons, traps, anything that might explain this audacity. Commander Alara's voice came through the intercom, calm and unwavering. "We come in peace, but we will not bow, we will not surrender, and we will defend ourselves if necessary. Our people deserve respect, and our message will be heard." Laughter echoed through the council chamber. Some ambassadors leaned back in their chairs, amused at what they thought was a bluff. One diplomat waved a tentacle dismissively. "Peace? You bring nothing but a toy ship into our halls and claim you are here for peace? This is amusing." But the humans did not react. They remained steady, their faces calm, their movements precise. The council could see the confidence radiating from the bridge of the human vessel, and it unnerved them. Confidence from a species so small and by galactic standards weak, it was almost insulting. The Grand Speaker motioned, and a group of alien inspectors approached. Their ships hovered closer, sending out scanning beams, probing for weapons, shields, even hidden bombs. Every type of detection technology the galaxy had developed was being used at once. The human ship remained still, almost inviting the scans. Inside, Alara's hands hovered over the controls, but she didn't need to act. Her crew moved like a single organism, adjusting the ship subtly, responding to every scan without panic. The aliens grew frustrated. Their readings were strange. The ship's hull absorbed energy differently than any known material. Its engines did not burn fuel in any recognizable way, and the small shields that flickered over the vessel, they were not just protective, they seemed intelligent, reacting almost like the crew's own instincts. One ambassador hissed, "It cannot be. No species this small, this primitive, should have technology that responds to them like it's alive." Inside the human ship, a young engineer smiled faintly. He whispered to his neighbor, "They don't get it, do they? It's not about the size of the ship. It's about what we do with it." Alara heard him but said nothing. She only pressed a few buttons, not aggressive, not threatening, just a subtle demonstration. A faint hum pulsed from the ship's hull, and the tiny shields adjusted automatically, shimmering in sync with the crew's heartbeat. The council froze. No one had seen technology like this. It wasn't raw power. They could overpower almost any other species with brute force, but it was precise, smart, adaptive. The small human vessel reacted faster than the largest warships in the council fleet, almost anticipating every move. A senior ambassador whispered urgently, "We cannot underestimate them. Not now." Ilara's voice finally spoke again, soft but firm. "We do not seek to harm, but we will protect ourselves. And you will understand this. Humans survive against impossible odds not by strength alone, but through courage, ingenuity, and unity." The council's laughter had stopped. Confusion replaced amusement. Murmurs turned into worried whispers. The aliens began to realize that humans were different. They were unpredictable, dangerous in ways the galaxy had never measured before. Some species began to panic. "Do they have weapons hidden? Advanced technology we cannot detect?" one asked nervously. Others looked at each other, realizing their fleets, their huge warships, might not dominate the humans as they had assumed. Inside the human ship, Alara walked quietly among her crew. She did not boast or celebrate. She only looked at them with pride and seriousness. "Stay calm. Focus. Show them who we are, not through anger, but through skill and heart. Let them see what it means to face humanity. The crew nodded. They were tired, far from home, facing species that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. But fear did not touch them. They had trained for this. They had survived impossible missions on Earth. And now, the galaxy would see what humans were capable of, not through war, but through presence, courage, and clarity. The Council decided to send a delegation to the human ship. No one dared enter it yet, but they wanted explanations. As the tiny human vessel hovered in space, silent and confident, the Council began to feel something they had never felt before: unease. One ambassador muttered to another, "If this is a human warship, we have no idea what we are dealing with." Alara watched through the viewport. She felt the weight of countless eyes upon her, judging, doubting, underestimating, and in that moment she made a silent promise. Humans had come to the Galactic Council to be seen, to be respected, and to survive, and they would not leave until the galaxy understood that humans were far stronger than anyone had imagined. The Galactic Council had watched the human ship for hours, its quiet confidence unsettling every ambassador in the chamber. The small gray vessel floated calmly in space, untouched by the hum of massive warships around it. Some whispered, some scoffed, but deep down a few could not shake the growing unease. Finally, one bold ambassador, an alien with shimmering silver skin and 6 spindly arms, spoke aloud. His voice echoed in the chamber like a whip. "We will see if your claims hold, human. If your ship is as capable as you say, it will survive this trial. Fire at will!" In an instant, beams of pure energy shot toward the tiny human warship. They were fast, deadly, and precise. Every alien fleet in the Council's formation focused their fire on this one small target. The Council had expected the ship to burn, to crumble, to vanish in a spectacular display. It did not. The human vessel absorbed the energy without hesitation. Its shields shimmered faintly, adapting instantly to every impact. The beams bent and twisted around the hull, harmlessly dissipating into space. A stunned silence fell over the Council chamber. The ambassador's jaws dropped. No ship in the galaxy had ever withstood this much firepower. Commander Alara's face remained calm, her eyes steady. She pressed a few buttons on the console, not in panic, not in anger, just precise movements. The ship responded almost instantly. Tiny devices on its hull emitted pulses that bent the very space around it, subtly shifting its position with grace and speed. The silver-skinned ambassador's voice cracked. "Impossible. No ship should survive. They are human." And then came the first sign of counterattack. Not massive lasers or explosive missiles. Something far stranger. The human ship fired gravity pulse cannons, a technology no alien had ever seen. The pulses didn't explode. They twisted the space around the alien ships. A dreadnought drifted sideways uncontrollably. A cruiser spun in place, unable to correct its course. Smaller ships collided with each other and panic erupted. The Council had never faced anything like this. Their fleets were built to destroy entire planets. Yet this single human ship moved effortlessly, controlling the battlefield without firing a single traditional weapon. Fear spread through the chamber. Whispers turned into frantic cries. "Do you see it?" one ambassador gasped. "It's controlling them. All of them. Like puppets." Inside the human ship, Alara's crew worked in perfect harmony. Every pulse, every adjustment, every maneuver was synchronized. No one panicked. No one hesitated. They were humans, trained to survive, trained to adapt. And now the galaxy was seeing it firsthand. A young gunner, his hands steady, muttered, "They think size matters. They think power is only numbers. They don't understand humans." Alara glanced at him with a faint smile. "Let them learn," she said quietly. "It's not about being the biggest. It's about being smart, fast, and brave. That is humanity." The Grand Speaker's 6 eyes glowed brighter. It had seen countless species, countless wars, countless technologies, but never anything like this. "Explain this, human," it bellowed. How can such a small vessel overpower fleets far larger than you? You have no right, no technology, no authority. Alara did not answer immediately. She only adjusted the shield slightly, and the pulses continued to twist the Council's ships harmlessly. Then she spoke, softly but clearly so every ambassador could hear. "This is human ingenuity," she said. "We survive where others fail. We use what we have. We fight not just with strength but with courage, intelligence, and unity. You will respect that, or you will learn the cost." Another volley of energy beams came from the Council. The human shields absorbed them as before, and then with a single command from Alara, the gravity pulses intensified. The largest Council dreadnought tilted, spinning helplessly as smaller ships were pushed out of formation. Fear replaced the arrogance in the chamber. The Council had assumed humans were weak. They had assumed this small vessel was harmless. Now they understood. They had underestimated humanity in a way that might cost them everything. A trembling ambassador whispered to another, We cannot fight them. We don't understand their technology, and yet, they aren't even trying to destroy us fully." Ilara's gaze swept across her crew. "Remember," she said quietly, "we are humans. We fight to survive, but mercy is our choice, not weakness." As the human ship glided smoothly through the chaos it had created, the Council realized something profound. Humans were unpredictable, uncontrollable, and far more dangerous than any species they had faced. The small, simple warship was no longer just a vessel. It was a statement. It was a warning, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Council sat in stunned silence. Their massive fleets had fired everything they had, overwhelming numbers, advanced technology, and every weapon known across the galaxy. And yet the tiny human ship had not only survived, but controlled the battlefield with elegance and precision. The Grand Speaker's glowing eyes swept across the room. "Explain yourselves, human. How can such a small vessel with seemingly primitive technology dominate our fleets? This is impossible." Commander Alara's calm voice came through the intercom. "It is simple. We are humans. We survive not by size, not by sheer power, but through adaptability, intelligence, and cooperation. Our strength comes from unity, from courage, and from using our minds to turn the impossible into reality." A murmur ran through the Council chamber. The aliens were confused, unsettled, and in disbelief. Many could not comprehend such a philosophy. Most species relied on brute force, overwhelming numbers, or the most advanced weapons to dominate others. Yet humans had shown them a new way, a way that did not rely on destruction to assert power. One ambassador, trembling, asked, "You control our fleets without destroying them. Your technology is unlike anything we have ever seen. How did you create it?" Alara's voice was steady. "We do not seek to destroy for the sake of power. Our ships are designed to protect, to survive, and to respond to threats in ways that are intelligent, not reckless. Our weapons bend space and energy, yes, but they do so carefully. We do not waste what we have. That is the human way." The Council struggled to understand. Their fleets were built to annihilate, to enforce fear, to command respect. Humans had shown them a species that was not the strongest, not the largest, yet more dangerous than any warship. The human strength was subtle. It was mental, emotional, and moral. It was their willingness to take risks, to trust each other, and to remain calm under impossible pressure. Inside the human ship, the crew moved like clockwork. Every pulse, every adjustment, every small shift of the vessel's shields was synchronized perfectly. They had trained for years, not just in combat but in teamwork, in strategy, and in trust. Every human on board trusted every other human to act without hesitation. That trust was their true power. A senior ambassador finally spoke, voice shaking. "You are not like any species we have encountered. You are fearless, yet you do not attack blindly. You are intelligent, yet you take risks that no other species would attempt. You survive against impossible odds." "Yes," Alara replied quietly. "That is humanity. We survive because we are adaptable. We fight because we care for what is ours, and we do not destroy for the sake of pride or dominance. That is why we are here, not to conquer but to be seen, to be understood, and to survive. The council began to whisper among themselves. Some were afraid, some were amazed, some were angry at the idea that a species they had dismissed as insignificant could not only survive, but teach them a lesson in strategy and morality. The room was filled with a mix of awe, fear, and confusion. Alara's voice cut through the murmurs. I am not here to threaten you. I am here to show you that humans are more than you think. Our technology, our ships, and our courage are reflections of who we are. You may fear us, you may underestimate us, but remember this: humans are unpredictable. You cannot predict our choices, our determination, or our will to survive. That is our advantage. The Grand Speaker leaned back, its glowing eyes narrowing. You speak of principles, of courage, of unity, as if they are weapons, and yet they are more powerful than anything in this chamber. Alara nodded. Exactly. Weapons alone do not make a species strong. Knowledge, empathy, courage, and unity, these are the true strengths. And humans have them in ways no other species can match. You may have fleets, numbers, and technology, but we have heart, and heart cannot be measured or destroyed. For the first time, the council began to see humans differently. They were no longer a minor species to be ignored. They were a force, not because of firepower or numbers, but because of intelligence, courage, and spirit. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, and now they were paying attention. As the human ship drifted silently in the council's space, calm and confident, a single thought echoed through every ambassador's mind. Humans were not just survivors. They were a new standard, a new example of what a species could achieve when it relied on more than weapons. They were dangerous, they were inspiring, and they were unstoppable, not because of their ships but because of who they were. And somewhere in the quiet of the bridge, Commander Alara allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had spoken, not with violence but with presence, and the galaxy had finally begun to listen. After the confrontation with the Galactic Council, the small human warship floated in silence. The massive fleets of the galaxy's most powerful species had fired on them, and yet they had survived. The crew had proven themselves, shown their courage, and displayed humanity's ingenuity. And still, inside the ship there was a quiet tension that no one could ignore. Commander Alara walked slowly down the narrow corridors. The hum of the engines and the soft glow of the control panels filled the space with a strange calm. She could feel the weight of the galaxy's eyes on them, the silent judgment of species who had underestimated humans for centuries. She looked at her crew, young men and women, some barely adults, others seasoned, but all carrying the same mixture of pride, fear, and exhaustion. One young engineer, his hand still trembling from the battle, whispered to his friend, "Do you think they'll attack us again? Can we really survive more of this?" Alara stopped and knelt beside him. "We can," she said softly. "We survive because we trust each other, because we never give up, because we are humans, and humans do not back down, even when everything seems impossible." Her words were calm, but they carried a deep truth. The crew had faced impossible odds and lived. They had seen massive fleets crumble against their ingenuity, yet the memory of the lasers, the heat, and the fear lingered. Each of them had been terrified in a way that no drill, no simulation could have prepared them for. A young gunner, leaning against the wall, wiped his sweaty brow. "I've never been this scared in my life," he admitted quietly. "And yet, somehow it felt right, like we were supposed to be here doing this." Alara smiled faintly. "That is what courage feels like. It is not the absence of fear. It is acting even when you are afraid. That is what humans do." In the quiet of the ship, the crew shared stories of their homes, their families, and the people they loved. They remembered birthdays missed, friends left behind, and lives they had chosen to protect. Each story carried a weight of emotion that connected them. Even in the face of galactic power, They were not just soldiers, they were humans with hearts, memories, and hope. One communications officer, her voice trembling, whispered into her headset, "I hope they see us as more than just a warship. I hope they see who we really are." Alara's eyes softened. She placed a hand on the young woman's shoulder. "They do," she said. "Even if they don't understand yet, they are starting to. Fear is the first step to respect. And respect is earned, not given. You've helped earn it today." As they drifted through the void, the ship seemed almost alive, moving with quiet confidence. The humans inside were small, fragile by galactic standards, yet they carried the weight of Earth itself. They carried the story of a species that had faced extinction, that had survived countless wars, and that had emerged stronger, wiser, and braver. The ship's engineer spoke again quietly, almost to himself. "We're just a small crew on a tiny ship, and yet, out there we face the entire galaxy." Alara nodded. "That is the truth. Strength is not measured by size or numbers. It is measured by heart, by will, by courage, and we have all three." For the first time in hours, the crew allowed themselves to feel pride. They had faced unimaginable danger. They had stood against the most powerful species in the galaxy and survived, and they had done it together. Every person aboard the ship had played a role, every hand, every mind, every heartbeat contributing to their victory. As the stars stretched out before them, glittering like 1,000 distant fires, Alara felt a deep sense of responsibility. The galaxy had seen a glimpse of humanity's heart, but there was still so much to prove. Humans were more than weapons, more than clever machines. They were a species capable of hope, of love, and of courage in the darkest moments. And as the human warship drifted silently, confident and proud, Alara whispered to herself, "We will show them. Not with destruction, not with fear, but with who we truly are. Humans never give up. Humans never surrender. And humans always survive." In that quiet, the crew of the human warship felt the weight of their place in history. They were small, fragile, and unassuming, yet they had changed the galaxy's perception of humanity forever. And though the council still watched, still whispered, and still wondered, one thing was clear: the humans were no longer to be underestimated. They were alive, they were united, and they were unstoppable in ways the galaxy had yet to understand. The Galactic Council had never faced a challenge like the humans. Their fleets, their advanced technology, and their centuries of experience were all shaken by the small, unassuming human warship. Fear, confusion, and awe rippled through the council chambers, and for the first time, the ambassadors realized that brute strength alone was not enough. After hours of tense silence, the council decided to act cautiously. One of the senior ambassadors, a massive being with translucent skin revealing glowing veins, approached the human ship in a small negotiation vessel. It was unprecedented. No species had ever dared approach humans without overwhelming force. The humans watched silently, their ship steady and calm as the alien delegation drifted closer. Commander Alara stood at the viewport, her eyes steady. "Remember," she told her crew quietly, "they are here to talk, but we must show them who we are. Humanity does not rely on fear or destruction. We rely on courage, intelligence, and heart." The alien ambassador's voice came through the intercom, trembling. "Humans, why don't you attack? You could destroy us all. You could end this council in an instant. Why do you hesitate?" Alara's gaze did not waver. "Because we are not monsters," she replied calmly. "We are humans. And humans know the cost of war. We fight when necessary, but we do not fight for pride or fear. We fight for survival, for love, for the people we care about. That is strength greater than any weapon." The ambassador paused. Its glowing eyes, wide with disbelief, seemed to study her for the first time. "You speak of morality? Of restraint? As if it is a weapon, and yet it feels more powerful than all of our fleets combined." Alara nodded. "That is because it is. Brute force can destroy ships, armies, even planets. But heart, courage, and unity, these cannot be destroyed. You may fear us, you may underestimate us, but you cannot control us. You cannot break our spirit. Inside the human ship, the crew felt a quiet pride. They were small, far from Earth, facing species that could annihilate them in a single strike. Yet they stood tall. They had proven themselves against impossible odds, and now, the galaxy was starting to see the true nature of humanity. One young officer, his voice soft, whispered to his neighbor, "Do you think they understand us? Do they see that we are more than just a ship?" Ilara smiled faintly. "They are beginning to. Fear is the first step to respect. And respect. Respect is earned, not demanded. Humanity has already earned it today." The Council's ships hovered cautiously, no longer firing. Their fleets were intact, but their confidence had shattered. The ambassadors began to whisper among themselves, realizing that humans were unlike any other species in the galaxy. Humans were unpredictable, intelligent, and fearless in ways they could not anticipate. The alien ambassador spoke again, quieter this time. "If you could destroy us, if you could end us, why spare us?" Ilara's voice was calm but filled with strength. "Because power is not in destruction. Power is in restraint, in choice, and in understanding. We could destroy you, yes, but doing so would not make us stronger. It would only prove that we are like the others, cruel, careless, and unthinking. Humanity survives because we are not like the others. We are brave, we are clever, and we fight for what matters." The chamber was silent. Every ambassador felt the weight of her words. They had assumed humans were weak, but now they knew the truth. Humans were not just survivors, they were a force to be respected. Not because of weapons, not because of size, not because of fleets, but because of spirit. Ilara turned away from the viewport and looked at her crew. "Today we have done more than survive," she said quietly. "We have shown them what humanity truly is. They will remember this. They may fear us, they may doubt us, but they cannot ignore us. Not now, not ever." The young crew members nodded, their hearts swelling with pride and relief. They were far from home, but in this moment, they felt the power of humanity, stronger than any weapon, braver than any fleet, and unbreakable in spirit. As the human warship drifted silently, confident and calm, the Council realized a truth it had never known. Strength was not only in firepower. True strength lay in courage, unity, and heart. And humans had it in abundance. For the first time, the galaxy saw humans not as a minor species to be dismissed, but as a force that could not be ignored. And somewhere in the quiet of the ship's bridge, Commander Ilara whispered to herself, "We have survived. We have spoken. And humanity will never be forgotten." The human warship drifted silently through the endless stars, leaving the Galactic Council behind, their massive fleet still reeling from the encounter. No one spoke. No one dared challenge the humans again. The galaxy had witnessed something that would not be forgotten. A small, unassuming vessel that had changed the way the universe viewed an entire species. Inside the ship, Commander Ilara stood at the viewport, her eyes scanning the glittering stars. Her crew moved quietly around her, tired but proud, the weight of what they had accomplished settling in their hearts. They were far from Earth, but for the first time they truly felt that humanity had made its mark on the galaxy. A young communications officer, her voice soft, asked, "Do you think they understand us now? Do you think they see who we really are?" Ilara smiled faintly. "Some may understand. Some may never fully understand. But they have seen enough to know that humans are not weak, that we are not to be underestimated, and that is a start." The crew looked at one another, sharing small smiles. They had faced fear and danger that no other human had faced before. They had survived impossible odds. And yet, their greatest victory was not the control of alien fleets, or the advanced technology that had made them seem unstoppable. It was the respect they had earned, the acknowledgement that humans were more than mere mortals. Even in the council chambers, whispers had begun. Ambassadors spoke in hushed tones recounting the events. "So this is a human warship," one muttered, eyes wide. "We underestimated them, and we paid the price." The story spread quickly. Across the galaxy, Species spoke of the small gray vessel that had faced the most powerful fleets and emerged unscathed. They spoke not just of its technology, but of the humans themselves, the courage, the unity, the intelligence, and the spirit that had allowed them to survive. Back on the ship, Ilara turned to her crew. "Remember this moment," she said softly. "Today we have shown the galaxy that humans are more than they think. We fight for survival for each other, for those we love, and in doing so, we show that humanity is unstoppable, not because of our ships but because of our hearts." The crew nodded, feeling a deep sense of pride and connection. They were not just soldiers or engineers or pilots. They were humans representing the spirit of an entire planet. They had faced impossible odds and the galaxy had watched, and the galaxy would never forget. As the human warship disappeared into the blackness of space, the Council and its fleets were left in awe. They had underestimated humans for centuries, assuming they were fragile, weak, and insignificant. But now the truth was undeniable. Humans were resilient, intelligent, and courageous beyond measure. They had proven that power was not measured in numbers or weapons, but in heart, unity, and determination. The story of the human warship became legend. Across worlds and systems, young aliens heard tales of the small ship that defied the galaxy. Teachers spoke of the courage of Commander Ilara and her crew. Parents told their children that even the smallest species could change the course of history. And the humans themselves carried the pride and responsibility of that legacy. Ilara walked through the quiet ship, looking at each member of her crew. "You have all done something incredible," she said. "You have faced fear, acted with courage, and shown the universe what humanity truly is. Remember this feeling. Remember what we have accomplished together. Humanity will continue to grow stronger, and the galaxy will never forget us." A young engineer whispered almost to himself, "We were just a small crew on a tiny ship, and yet we changed everything." Ilara smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Yes, and one day they will all understand that it wasn't the size of the ship or the power of our weapons that mattered. It was the heart of the crew, the courage to stand together and the will to survive. That is humanity's greatest weapon." The human warship sailed onward through the endless sea of stars. It was small, unassuming, and quiet, but it carried with it the spirit of an entire species. And somewhere across the galaxy, ambassadors and fleets remembered the words that had been whispered after that fateful encounter. "So this is a human warship." And from that day forward, every species knew one undeniable truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were brave, clever, and unyielding. They were unpredictable, unstoppable, and unforgettable. And humanity had finally taken its place among the stars.